5 canceled horror movies we wish actually happened. Some horror movies never make it past the rumor stage. Others get so far into development that actors are cast, sets are built, and then, poof, gone. Canceled, shelved, locked in a vault somewhere we'll never see. These are the horror films that could have been cult classics, box office bombs, or the wildest things we've ever seen on screen. And even though they never happened, horror fans are still mourning them. One project was minutes from becoming a legend before it was buried for good. Here are 5 canceled horror movies we wish actually happened. Number 5, Guillermo del Toro's At the Mountains of Madness. This was going to be the Lovecraft adaptation. Based on H.P. Lovecraft's 1931 novella, At the Mountains of Madness tells the story of a doomed Antarctic expedition that uncovers an ancient alien civilization and something far worse slumbering underneath it. It's not just monsters. It's cosmic insignificance. The idea that humanity is a fleeting accident in a universe ruled by ancient, indifferent gods. Guillermo del Toro, fresh off of Pan's Labyrinth, wanted to make it a sprawling R-rated epic. His vision was cinematic horror on the scale of Lawrence of Arabia meets Alien. In interviews, he described vast, matte-painted landscapes merging with CG, creating a city of impossible geometry where the snow swirled upward and light bent in unnatural ways. What we know from pre-production, Tom Cruise was in talks to star as expedition leader William Dyer. James Cameron was on board as producer, offering technical expertise for shooting in immersive 3D. Creature designs were underway, blending practical effects with cutting-edge CGI for the Elder Things, barrel-shaped aliens with writhing appendages, and the Shoggoths, massive shape-shifting blobs that would dwarf any creature in modern horror. Del Toro insisted on showing the novella's infamous mountain reveal, shot as a slow 90-second pullback with zero music, just the howl of the wind. Why it was canceled? Universal loved the script, but balked at the R rating and the $150 million budget. They wanted a PG-13 version. Del Toro refused, saying toning it down would gut the story's terror. Around the same time, Ridley Scott's Prometheus, 2012, with similar ancient aliens in the cold vibes, underperformed, convincing execs that audiences wouldn't go for bleak, high-concept sci-fi horror. Why horror fans can't let it die? Because no one does tragic, beautiful monsters like Del Toro. Every time he talks about this project, the horror community lights up again, sharing leaked concept art of black ice cathedrals and tentacled shadows frozen mid-motion. It's our white whale, and every year at Comic-Con, someone asks him if he'll still make it.
Daily horror news and lists at likehorror.com.
Number 4, Freddy vs. Jason vs. Ash. After Freddy vs. Jason carved up the box office in 2003, New Line Cinema wanted a sequel that would raise the stakes. Enter Ash Williams from Sam Raimi's Evil Dead, the chainsaw-armed, broomstick-wielding, one-liner-spitting horror anti-hero played by Bruce Campbell. The crossover wasn't just a fan wish, it almost happened. Writers Mark Verheiden and Jeff Katz pitched a script that was pure chaos. Freddy, stuck in the dream world, manipulates Jason into retrieving the Necronomicon, the actual Book of the Dead from Evil Dead lore, so he can gain real-world immortality. Jason naturally doesn't care about books and just kills everything in sight. Ash is pulled in when the massacre spreads to a small town, and he's the only one crazy enough to take on both. Iconic set pieces in the script. Ash fighting Jason in a Home Depot-like hardware store, using power tools as improvised weapons. Freddy pulling Ash into a dream sequence that recreates the cabin from Evil Dead, but twisted into a living nightmare. Jason, caught in Freddy's dream logic, seeing his mother alive again, before being yanked into a bloodbath. A final 3-way showdown in the ruins of the cabin as the Necronomicon opens a portal to hell. Why it didn't happen? It came down to legal hell. The Evil Dead rights were tied up between Universal, Renaissance Pictures, and Sam Raimi's own company. No one could agree on profit sharing or creative control. Bruce Campbell confirmed he was in, but only if Ash didn't die and didn't lose his personality to studio meddling. New Line eventually gave up. Why fans still beg for it? Because it could have been horror's Avengers. Freddy's trickery, Jason's brute force, and Ash's cocky swagger in the same movie is a once-in-a-lifetime mashup. The idea lives on in a 2007 comic book series, but horror fans still imagine what Raimi's kinetic camera work and Campbell's charisma could have done on the big screen. Number 3. Halloween 3D, Rob Zombie's canceled sequel. Rob Zombie's Halloween 2, 2009, split audiences right down the middle. Some praised its raw, surreal approach. Others missed the clean slasher beats of earlier entries. But one thing was certain, it ended up with a setup that could have turned the franchise into a wildly unexpected direction. Dimension Films wasted no time announcing Halloween 3D. They brought on Patrick Lussier, fresh off the gory 3D hit My Bloody Valentine, to direct, and Todd Farmer to write. It wasn't going to be just another slasher sequel. This was pitched as a psychological horror with a surreal, almost dreamlike tone, blending Michael Myers' relentless stalking with Laurie Strode's crumbling grip on reality. Leaked script details painted an insane picture, opening in the psychiatric hospital where Laurie is being held, still wearing the bloodied clown mask from the end of Halloween 2. Hallucinations where Michael walks upside down on hospital ceilings, the knife hovering inches from the audience in 3D. A sequence at a rural Halloween carnival with Michael moving through a corn maze lit only by jack-o'-lanterns and firework flares. Kills designed to make full use of 3D gore splatter. Laurie slowly becoming more violent, with the question hanging over the film, is she becoming Michael? The visual style was going to be grimy and feverish. Grainy textures, harsh lighting, and a soundtrack that mixed Rob Zombie's industrial grind with Carpenter's original synth motifs. Why it was canceled? Before shooting began, the Weinstein Company underwent a massive restructuring. The Halloween rights were in flux, and the studio didn't want to commit to a costly 3D horror when post-converted 3D was falling out of fashion. By 2011, the project was dead, and the franchise went on ice until Blumhouse revived it in 2018. Why we still want it? Love or hate Zombies' take, it was different. It treated Michael as less of a supernatural force and more of a brutal human predator, but one filtered through the nightmarish haze of trauma. Seeing that vision collide with immersive 3D would have been the kind of bold swing slasher fans rarely get.
Every Saw ranked worst to best.
And number 2. Guillermo del Toro's Haunted Mansion. Before Disney's 2003 Haunted Mansion comedy, starring Eddie Murphy, became the butt of horror fan jokes, Guillermo del Toro pitched his own version, and it was nothing like what we got. Del Toro's take was a love letter to gothic horror. He wanted the mansion to feel alive, its architecture shifting subtly from scene to scene, rooms bending in impossible ways, like an Escher drawing. His central figure wasn't a goofy ghost host, but the Hatbox Ghost, a spectral villain who carried his own head in a box and whispered riddles to visitors. Production notes and concept art, which Del Toro shared at Comic-Con, revealed an entrance sequence in which the audience would follow the protagonist through a hedge maze that reconfigures itself. A ballroom scene where dancers appear normal until lightning strikes, revealing skeletal faces in the mirrors. Rooms inspired by real-life haunted house legends like the Winchester Mystery House. Staircases leading nowhere and doors opening into brick walls. A seance room centerpiece with a swirling spirit vortex achieved using a mix of practical stage illusions and cutting-edge digital projection. Del Toro planned to make it PG-13, scary enough to make kids hide behind the couch, but still full of wonder. He saw it as a gateway horror movie in the tradition of Poltergeist and The Frighteners. Why it didn't happen? Disney executives were nervous. They loved Del Toro's vision, but worried it was too scary for families and too weird for general audiences. The project sat in development hell for years, with Del Toro staying attached in hopes of a green light. Eventually, Disney moved forward with a new version in 2023, far more conventional in tone. Why we wish it happened? Because Del Toro knows how to balance beauty and terror like nobody else. His Haunted Mansion could have been the definitive spooky family movie the kind that traumatizes you just enough to make you a lifelong horror fan. Instead, it's just another tantalizing what if on the pile. And number 1, George A. Romero's Resident Evil. Before, Paul W.S. Anderson turned Resident Evil into an action franchise, Capcom had a very different plan. Hand the keys to George A. Romero, the godfather of the zombie genre himself. And he was ready. Romero had already proven he got the vibe. He directed a Resident Evil 2 commercial in Japan that fans still call one of the creepiest game promos ever made. What Romero wanted, a straight-up adaptation of the 1996 game with Chris Redfield and Jill Valentine navigating the Spencer Mansion. The mansion as a character, low ceilings, flickering candles, suffocating silence. Practical monsters, zombie dogs and prosthetics, a full animatronic tyrant lumbering down the hall, gore that would make Dawn of the Dead look tame. The tone? Think Night of the Living Dead meets survival horror gameplay. Ammo scarce, every creak in the hallway a threat, tension so thick you could choke on it. What went wrong? Romero had a script, Capcom loved it, but Sony got nervous. Too scary, too faithful. Translation? Not sexy or action-packed enough for the mainstream. They dumped Romero and brought in Anderson, who swapped creeping dread for gun fu and slow-mo kicks. Why fans still ache for it? Because Romero's version might have been the definitive zombie movie of the 2000s, a terrifying, faithful adaptation laced with his trademark social commentary. Instead, we got a slick action series. Fun, sure. But imagine walking into theaters and actually feeling like you'd been dropped inside the Spencer Mansion with no way out. That's the nightmare we'll never get to see. All right, horror fans, which one of these almost movies would you bring back if you could? Would you choose Del Toro's cosmic epic, Ash chainsawing his way through Jason and Freddy, or Romero's terrifying trip into the Spencer Mansion? Drop your pick in the comments, and if you've got a dream cast for it, let's hear it. Sometimes, the scariest thing in horror isn't the monster. It's the words, Project Cancelled. But the best horror ideas have a way of clawing back from the grave, even decades later. If these lost nightmares got your heart racing, dive into our rankings of horror comedies, silly horror, and films that stretch the definition of horror. You might just discover your new favorite. In horror, the dead don't always stay buried, thankfully.